Good morning and welcome from beautiful Brisbane, Australia. My name's Linda. I'm a trauma recovery coach and it's great to have you with me. If you're here for the replay, do a hashtag replay. I'm waving around a box of tissues. And sorry, I'm having all sorts of technical difficulties this morning, technical challenges this morning. I just had to restart the computer and so we're all over the shop. So while I keep getting sorted and we're here today, I want you to grab a box of tissues if necessary. They may or may not be necessary. Important topic this morning. And I want you to grab, well, if you haven't got a notebook, grab some paper and pen. And morning, Ali, and well, evening, Ali. And I want you to be in a safe space so that when we start this morning, when we start the program for this morning, I want you to, we're going in prepared, okay? So when you grab your notebook or your piece of paper, it's going to be important what we're going to do with it. And the tissues are a possible maybe because if you're anything like me, and I'm going to share with you what happened for me when I put all these pieces together. Hi, Rachel. Thanks for waiting, girls. I really appreciate it. I'm going to share with you what happened for me when I learnt the information that I'm going to teach you, going to share with you today. And you may or may not need tissues like I did, hence the suggestion. And the notebook is really, really important. Well, note paper is important. Good morning, Cindy from Cindy from Australia. I was thinking of Sydney. Yeah, we might need tissues this morning because we're going to get a bit of it might just get a bit emotional because it'll touch our heart, my story. And then the information, when I explain it to you, will also definitely touch your heart, okay? And if you're a softie, or not, like me, and we all are, I'll explain to you what happened for me and why I needed tissues when I process this information. So you may not need the tissues straight away, but we'll have them on hand. Now, before we get into the nitty-gritty, all right, I want you, especially if you're on your own, because this morning is going to get the emotions happening in a good, healthy way, but they're going to be happening. So the first thing I want you to do is write down somebody that you can talk to. Good morning, Diana. Somebody that you can talk to. Write their phone number down or write how you can contact them after we finish speaking this morning, okay? Now, if you know 2 or 3 people that you could just hit up and say, hey, I've just listened to some pretty life-changing stuff for me. Have you got a sec just to listen so I can process? Because when we process things verbally, like we're, thinking and then we get it out verbally, we don't need somebody to actually be there for us, give input. Sometimes we just need someone to listen. So I went through something the other week and I said to my younger son, I don't need you to do or say anything. I just need you to listen as I process this out loud. And that's all he did. So I want you to have written down 1 to 3 people that after we have our session today that you can contact or you can process. Now, if no one is available for you to process, especially Ali, you don't want to be ringing people late at night, Rachel, jump into the Facebook group, okay? Or you feel free to comment down below, but jump into the Facebook group because there are always people there to listen and encourage, because we are global, all right? And we are your greatest cheer squad. Now, Cindy said, hi Charlotte. Cindy said, thank you so much for doing these. It's hard to have CPtsd. She's struggling a lot with it. I think you're great. Thank you, and you are great too, because we are all in this together, and jump into group because we do it together and we cheer each other along in this powerfully, emotionally safe environment. And when we've got complex PTSD, remember, it happens in our childhood. We need this. We need outside information, outside affirmation, outside validation, as well. As much as we love our family, and my youngest son Nicholas and I talked about this the other day because he was talking to me about some of his stuff that he's going through at the moment because he has it as well. And I said to him, it's all great that I'm your mum and I can say how proud of you I am and wow, you know, you're doing great, but you need to hear it, what a valuable person you are from other people too. Okay, now I came across this information, and for those of you that follow me know that I'm pretty well read, as in, you know, there's still bucket loads to read, but generally speaking, I'm pretty well read because I've been doing this journey for over 30 years, all right? I've been looking for answers, etc., etc. Now, before we start, the other thing that I want to recommend to you as well is this book by Pete Walker, okay? Complex PTSD from Surviving to Thriving, because as we go further, I'll explain why, but he has even more specific strategies than I've got time for that he covers in this book. And I've read it, but I read an article yesterday that really resonated very, very deeply with me about people pleasing. And as I processed the information that I'm going to share with you, I felt the information. So once upon a time, I would have read the information. I would have been like, yeah, okay, that's me, blah, blah. Or other times I would have been, yeah, that's not me, da, da, da. But it hit me at the right time for me yesterday because I'm very aware of my internal dialogue and what happens for me. And a lot of what I'm going to read to you happens for me, so I know that happens for a lot of us. And at the end of the day, so this was over a number of hours, at the end of the day I was able to sit there and fully feel and understand how all the choices in my life that I made, okay, i.e. marriages to two men who were narcissistic in their own way. So I'm not saying they had narcissistic personality disorder, they didn't, but they were able to perceive my people pleasing and they also used it against me, okay? Sorry, I knew I'd get a bit emotional with you all this morning, like being open and honest about it all, and sorry. And when I sat there last night in my chair and I was watching something on Netflix, sort of, and all the dramas that I could see happening in people's lives, and that's not who I am. But when we deal with narcissists, they make everything about drama and they make everything about gaslighting us and withdrawing their approval and disapproval, and you know. And I sat there, and when I understood the information that I read yesterday about us and the people pleasing and the internal dialogue, I just burst into tears late last night. And I went, I'm not to blame. Everything that happens to us throughout our adulthood after we've had toxic childhoods, we are wired internally to be a people pleaser, and then people who don't have good intentions use that against us, and we have absolutely no idea that there is another way to be, that we can have boundaries, healthy boundaries, that we can have strong, wise opinions. And people, and in my case men, and for other people it's a different sex, and this isn't about sexuality. So for me, from my experience, there are men in this world who value women that are strong and have healthy conversations, and it's a really, really, really special place to be. I have that in my life. I'm single, but I have men in my life that value my strength, okay? So when I came through it last night, after sobbing from my heart, the depths of my heart, that I am not to blame, I knew that this session that we're going to go through now was highly, highly valuable and will impact us. And remember, it's like an onion, we're layers. And as I go further out into life and into community and share information, I know that this will still continue to impact me, but it's a healthy thing. I want you to remember that when I share that I've cried and everything, it's a healthy thing, because it's a release of who I don't have to be that person anymore. I don't have to conform to what other people want. My thoughts don't have to think how I was wired to think anymore. I'm allowed, and I give myself permission to be who I am, the good, the bad, and the ugly. And I know that I can manage all of that as well. So, without further ado, everyone, I want to introduce you to People Pleasing 101, our internal reality from what we were wired for in childhood. And I want you to know, more than anything else in this world, it's a trauma-based response. It's based in fear, okay? So as we go through all of this information, I want you to remember this. You are not to blame. It is not your fault, all right? You are worthy. You are powerful. You are loved. And you are not to blame for how you were wired at a time when you had no control over it, and adults misused you in a way that no sane parent ever would. All right? So it's a trauma-based response, and it's implanted from fear. All right? Now, the fears are a different kettle of fish, as in you'd go through them with your therapist or your trauma coach and put in place strategies and structures for the fears. That's okay. What we want to know now is our internal wiring, so right down to our nervous system, but also how we thought and how we were was wired into us. And when it's wired into us and we don't know that, in adulthood we're going to make some pretty wild decisions in hindsight, for me, okay? So when we're a people pleaser, we're less likely to criticize others. We might think it, but we never say it. So we're less likely to say when our boundaries are crossed. We're less likely to express when we're unhappy. We'll shove it down, pile on heaps of other reasons why we can't say we're unhappy. And we don't say we're unhappy with someone's behaviour. Oh my goodness, when I think of the times when I was married and I couldn't even frame thoughts around how to say I was unhappy with their behaviour. Anyhow, bit challenging this morning. We won't share anything, so we don't talk about, we hide parts of ourselves away because we worry that will damage the relationship. Let me tell you, any relationship worth having, the most beautiful parts of a relationship are when you go through the mess together. We have to be willing to learn how to go through mess together, and that's when you create the memories and the really solid, deep foundations of deeper and deeper love. And it's not just in romantic relationships. This is in relationships even with our children. I do this with my adult children, although we don't have to do the mess so much anymore, but I have done it with them. And we know that we value the mess because working through the mess has made our relationships very, very strong. Okay? And my eldest son, who I've had to go toe-to-toe with at times, and that means I've had to stand there in his face and say, basically, don't lie to me, he said to me, "Oh, I miss those times, Mum," and we laughed because, we don't, but they were times of deep connection for us, long-term. When we're people pleasers, we embody our least threatening persona, say yes to everything and everyone, and we want others to be happy. And we want others to be happy because we believe if others are happy, then we'll be happy, we'll be safe. We believe that when others around us are happy, we will be safe. And that's just rubbish. But that's what we learnt. Okay, that's what childhood taught us. If that person's if that person's happy, I'll be safe. We have a tendency to defer, so we'll put others before us, we'll put their opinions before ours, we'll believe their opinions before ours, we'll put our opinions down in the basement. We subordinate, so we make their wishes greater than our own, tell ourselves we'll get to ourselves when we get to ourselves. We make ourselves become smaller, hoping not to be seen, when really we'd rather just yell and scream and shout and say, "See me, I have a valued opinion, and I'm wise and I understand," and we don't own it. We ignore our boundaries, all right? We ignore what we need in this equation. We ignore our intuition that this person isn't safe. We believe that we can make the situation safe, and we believe that we don't have to live in fear, but we operate out of fear. We minimize our needs, and we have genuine, human, valuable needs, and we are designed to live in community and live with each other. And some of us need less community, but we're still designed to have needs, and it's the sharing of those in a healthy, safe community that makes life joyful too. We are deeply vulnerable to emotional abuse because of all of these characteristics. We learnt that being an individual doesn't secure us the love that we want. Remember, we learnt this in childhood, so we put off becoming an individual as an adult because we are so afraid that if we become an individual and we own our power and we own that we're not to blame and we own that we're worth it, that we will not be secure. And that's a lie. The more that we own our truth, our power, our worth, our value as individuals, the more that we will feel secure. We no longer rely on others to feel secure because our heart is full to overflowing. we feel we have to earn love to believe it's secure. And that's a lie. Love, true love, comes out of the excess that pours out of our heart. It does not come out of our heart without us having an excess. If you haven't got an excess of love flowing out of your heart, then you need to do you first. Otherwise, you will become unwell, and we've all done it. We've all been there, and we've all poured out of our hearts when we were not even full in ourselves, let alone full to overflowing. And I've done it, and it's very crippling health-wise, okay? So we don't want to do that anymore. We excessively relinquish our personal power, okay? So we give up our ability to say no. We give up our ability to have a voice. We don't use our voice. We are scared of our own voice. Sorry, that's kind of really a big one for me. It's taken me a long time to understand that I was scared to use my voice. And a lot of that can come down to when we are told as children to keep it secret, okay? So we have to actually go through a whole learning process again. Well, we never learnt it in the first place. We have to go through a learning process of that we're safe to use our voice. Okay? We're safe to use our voice for ourselves. And then we grow into being safe to use our voice for others as well. I want you to remember always that this is driven by fear from the trauma and a desire for validation. I cannot put enough emphasis on how much we as children that have come out of these families, out of these toxic situations, have a need for validation for who we are. But we must first learn to validate ourselves, our needs, our dreams, in order that we can begin to believe and have hope that we will make it through this long, dark, deep journey. And I want you to know, above and beyond everything else, that whilst the journey is dark and it can be deep, the light that comes out of every depth that we face is worth every moment that we sit, and that we need Kleenex, and we need to write and validate what happened for me just for today. Okay? Just for today. Now, that was a lot of information to take on. I am going to do a part 2 tomorrow. I want you to know that you are valued, you are worth it, you are powerful beyond anything that you know at this point in time. You have the means and ability to seek the help that you need, and you have the ability to overcome this, and it's all from the internal. We do things externally with complex PTSD in order that we integrate our power, our love, our compassion, and who we are into our day-to-day life. But it's the internal dialogues, the internal wiring, right down to our nervous system, that we need to understand that it is not our fault. And the choices that we made from that were not our fault. I want to thank you all for having the patience to listen this morning. I love and appreciate all of you. You are valued. You are valued beyond measure. And I want you to know that there is help, there is hope, there are resources, and that you can do this and you never have to do it alone. Never. We spend too much time on our own, alone, suffering as children, as little children who are supposed to be loved and cared for and raised in the community. That as adults, we get to choose the community and the people that come into our life and help us through the challenges. They're never easy, but they are absolutely worth it. I love you all, and I want you to reach out now to the people that you've listed or jump into group and process what you've come to understand this morning and process the pieces that have come together for you. They may not come all at once, and this will be included in the booklet that I'm going to issue at the end of this week with guidance and guidelines in understanding and integrating it into your particular circumstances in your life. Okay, have the most blessed day and blessed evening, and I'll see you again on time tomorrow morning. Bye for now.